Good morning, everyone. Labrīt visiem. We are good to go. So with this robotic voice that showcased that the recording has started, welcome to today's webinar. So this webinar today is tailored specifically for our progressive Latvian business community and delivered by our agency. My name is Jākams Groskaufmanis. And on days when I'm not moderating purposeful webinars, I'm heading the Netherlands office for the Investment and Development Agency of Latvia, also known as LIA. And as most of our agency's clients know, our agency is currently wrapping up I think more than a 6-year-long support program that basically helped to promote export and help any kind of different export promotion activities and a lot of financial assistance. And well, basically, I think thousands of companies use the program and still using it, and they are waiting for the new one. So I think we have this small gap in between, which is a perfect time perhaps to reflect on a more midterm, long-term strategies of our companies, the companies you represent. And yeah, this might just be the perfect moment to talk about things like long-term value, access to global communities, and yeah, how to do brand differentiation. And therefore, today, I'm gladly invited to host a webinar on sustainability, ethical business, and business communities that do think long-term and think perhaps beyond their existence and perhaps beyond their shareholders. So, B Corp, Benefit Corporation. I had been reading that there are more than 7,000 companies across the globe already are bearing this and displaying this beautiful B Corp logo. And I think more than 1,000 of them for sure, if not more, come particularly from Europe. And actually one is already from Latvia. And thus, I personally have many questions. First, is this company is just an outlier, or this is actually also a bigger trend that's starting also in Latvia and is here to stay? And are we going to see more number of B Corp companies also from Latvia? And yeah, the concept of B Corp itself might sound quite new to some of you, or perhaps even most of you. But as per my understanding, it basically represents an evolving global movement of companies using business as a force for good. So not only just for profit, but also of taking care of the environment around them and the other stakeholders, and ensuring that they prioritize both the people and the profit. Sounds beautiful. So again, I have another question. Will or might this B Corp certification help a company financially? I guess many of you also have this question. And yeah, over this seminar, we're going to have amazing people join today who are going to help me answer this and many other questions, and will help me to keep a focus on the practical benefits for business. And I invite everyone here today to find out answers to these questions together with me. And I'm glad enough that I have been joined by 3 amazing speakers with whom we're going to spend the next hour or so. As now we are kicking off, we're going to have 3 presentations, after which we're going to have a discussion with all 3 of the panelists we have today. And we're going to have a hard stop at 11:30, the latest. Maybe we're going to make it even earlier. Let's see. And just so you know, this recording, this seminar, this webinar is being recorded and will be available in the business.gov.lv material section and also elsewhere. And of course, presentations might also be available if you need them. But I think the biggest focus today are the speakers who can help me with the questions that I already posed. And today, we are joined by Nicolas Hemio, who is a Senior Markets Development Coordinator at B Lab Europe, so the company in a way behind the B Corp brand and certification, and working for its Europe division, who's going to offer us an insight into what is a B Lab, B Corp, and how big is the movement behind it. Nicolas himself is very interested in youth movements, communities, and has deep roots in his native Spain, where he actually is an enthusiast of permaculture, and he founded his own company designing and building urban gardens, which I found fascinating. But yeah, but currently we see what he's doing today. Afterwards, we're gonna be joined by Gatis Zemanis, who has been in the coffee industry for a dozen years or so. He will definitely clarify that. And he's developing the well-known Kalve coffee brand, well-known in Latvia, I think, with more and more shops opening in Riga. He has actually spearheaded the journey for the first company in Latvia to achieve the B Corp certification. So we're going to ask him what it takes to become a B Corp. And finally, we're going to conclude with our speaker, Zana Valuyeva, who has dedicated about 5 years of working with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals at large, and has undertaken corporate social responsibility projects ranging from Denmark to Kenya and from India to her native Latvia. And currently, she's a founder of a Kind agency, and she's been a B leader since 2020 or so. And we're going to find out what is a B leader as well. And without further ado, let me ask Nicholas. Nicholas, what is a B Corp? What is a B Lab? And why should we and others pay attention?
Let's dive into it, Jakobs. Thank you so much for such a great introduction. Today is a really special day for me. I have great appreciation for the little I've seen of Latvia and the rest of the Baltics, and I'm really, really happy to be able to work with entrepreneurs and pioneers like the ones in the room. So this is really exciting. It's a time investment for everyone, so really hoping to make the most out of it. And please, as it was said before, ask as many questions as you like. Let's make the most out of it. So to start, I think it's inevitable that we're going through a global culture shift in which more and more businesses are realizing the power and the tools that they have to address some of society's greatest challenges. And these are challenges that sometimes governments are trying to address, sometimes not. But what being a responsible company meant 50 years ago is not the same as today. And year after year, companies have more and more tools, and also a greater expectation from consumers, from the markets, to actually take a role in addressing some of these challenges. And there is also an opportunity for companies in doing so, which is good news. So I work at B Lab Europe, and we are part of a network of nonprofit organizations. So we have B Lab Europe, B Lab Global, but then in Europe, we have different country partners as well. In total, we're around 500 employees. And our vision as an organization is to contribute to creating an inclusive, equitable, and regenerative economic system for all people and the planet. It's an ambitious mission, for sure, but I can tell you we're slowly making good progress towards it. To get there, we need to tackle it from many different, with different approaches. And before I dive into the certification part, I'll just spend a couple minutes introducing B Lab and what's behind this organization. What do we do as key actions or strategies? The first thing is to create standards of social and environmental performance, but also accountability and transparency. So kind of all the standards that an organization, company, or nonprofit as well should look at to know how they're performing and how they're making a positive impact on the world. So that's the first thing that we do, and it's been done since 2006, a continuous development of these standards. And the standards go into an assessment, which we'll talk about today as well. We call it the B Impact Assessment, and it's a completely free online tool that any organization can use to measure their impact. So that's the first and most important thing that we do. The second thing is certifying businesses. So we provide a certification for companies that want to verify that impact that they have measured and show to the outside world that what they're doing is true, that they're walking their talk. But that's completely optional. Again, certification is a tool. We'll talk about it today. But the most important thing really is to start measuring and implementing good standards in your organization. The third thing that we do is broadcasting business as a force for good. So we spend a lot of energy just sharing positive stories of B Corps and non-B Corps doing good in the world. The fourth thing that we do is policy change. So we invest resources, we hire people to try to influence policymaking at the European and national levels, so that ultimately all business has to be a force for good. So that, you know, that's the rule of the game. And hopefully B Corp certification can disappear. But that's not in the near future, but we hope for that one day through policymaking. And the fifth thing that we do more broadly is developing a network of local, regional, and global communities for change. And that's also what we're doing here today together with you. This number is the growth that we've seen over the last years in B Corp certifications in Europe. And I show it because this is, well, part of the reason why we're here today together, I guess, to try to understand how this happened and why. But also for us as an organization over the last years, we've been really trying to cope with this demand. As I said, we're a non-profit company. We don't scale or we don't want to scale like Silicon Valley startups. So we've been really trying to meet this demand and fascinated by the interest from companies, especially since the lockdown, when in 2020, when more and more companies started to ask themselves, you know, what was the reason of existence and also how they could differentiate themselves. About the standards, they are, as I said before, they have been developed since 2006, and we upgrade them and update them every 3 years. This is a bit of a dense topic. It's really, you know, thorough and complicated in a way, in a good way, process how these standards are made. But I'll share in the chat for those of you who want to know more about how this is done. Ultimately, the body governing the standards or making the last call on what should be the standards for the next 3 years is the Standards Advisory Council, and that's a group, an independent group of 15 experts. I think only one of them works at B Lab. It's really impressive to see who they are, and I encourage you to have a look at how we develop our standards, which are the DNA of the assessment and the B Corp certification. So in essence, what is B Corp? On one side, it's the assessment. I'll share the link in a moment to the online tool. You can open as many accounts as you want, completely for free, invite as many team members as you like. The certification, which again verifies that impact and recognizes top performers. Legal change, and this is part of our work as well in helping develop legal structures and legal language that companies can put into their articles of association to advance this stakeholder capitalism, this form of capitalism in which companies are accountable for all impact that they have on all stakeholders. And last, what is B Corp? Well, the community of certified B Corps and non-B Corps and the collective leadership that emerged from it. And this is really, I believe, you know, the main success of the movement so far. What B Corps themselves, as Calvi Coffee today here, are doing to, you know, collaborate with other companies, create opportunities for themselves, and advance the movement of business, using business as a force for good. As Jakob said before, there are more than 7,000 B Corps globally, and now we lose track quite quickly because the number keeps growing. And yeah, we'll also keep hiring analysts to help us verify these companies and conduct their certification process. I will also share on the chat now the link to the public B Corp directory, which is the directory where you can search across all of these 7,000 B Corps, and you can, you know, filter through a sector, maybe that's relevant, to see which B Corps there are in your sector or industry, or in different countries. And I'll spend a couple of minutes just introducing the B impact assessment and why it's so important and so useful, I think, beyond the certification. The whole philosophy behind it is that we can't improve what we don't measure. And we all have things that we are proud about how we do business, but how are we measuring those? How are we putting them on paper? The B impact assessment helps us to do that, and it measures impact across 5 different areas that are governance, so how you take decisions internally, transparency, who are your shareholders as well, workers, environment, customers, and community. In practice, and I think Sane will share a screenshot and talk also, of course, about her wide experience with it. But in essence, it's a 200 question or so assessment online. It's free, as I said. It's completely confidential, so everything that you put in it is for yours to keep until the moment when you decide to go for certification. If that's of your interest, in that moment you would share the assessment with B Lab and our analysts to start the verification process. It's all encompassing, and so we're not what we do is not an environmental sustainability certification, but really we talk about organizational sustainability. And this is something that it's harder to find out there with other tools, that it really measures every dimension of the company. It allows for benchmarking. You can compare your score with the score of other businesses in your region or in your sector. And to me, a key thing, it allows for improvement, continuous improvement. We even think of it as a management tool that you can use every day to set new goals and see where are the low-hanging fruits on things that you can improve on, but also the challenges that you want to aspire to in the next 6 months or 1 year ahead. I said, I think Sana will speak a bit more about her experience with the assessment, but and usually I spend an hour talking about the assessment and just a tiny bit on the certification, but I know the interest today is to understand this logo. And by the way, the B stands for benefit. So benefit not just for shareholders, but for all stakeholders in the economy. The certification is available for for-profit companies. We believe that non-profit company organizations already have a mission embedded in their DNA in a way that there is no need for B Corp certification, although they are very welcome to use the assessment to improve. And also we as B Lab Europe, we can't certify, but we use the assessment to see how we can improve as an organization. It's open for companies of any size or location, and the assessment changes depending on your size, location, and your industry. It will show you different questions. So the assessment is quite adaptable in that sense. And you need to have at least 1 year of operations. And that's just because we think that before that, you may not have enough data to measure, really. So these are the 3 main requirements to start a B Corp certification journey. But as I said, other kinds of organizations can use the B impact assessment also for free. And did I share on the chat the link to the assessment? Not yet. So the first step would be to open an account. Probably takes you less than 5 minutes. And I'm sharing the link to that also in the chat. How does the process of certification look like? The first step would be to complete the assessment, depending on the complexity of your organization and how much you know about it. Well, it may take you anywhere from 2 hours to several months for very large organizations where there is not a lot of visibility of what is happening inside. And you would need to reach a minimum of 80 points. So every question on the assessment has a score. And depending on what you answered, you get a higher or lower score. And for most companies, when you fill in the assessment for the first time, it would be rare that you are above 80 points, unless you are kind of really born with a purpose and have been working on your sustainability strategy, usually you would be below 80 points, and then you can work on improvements. When you are ready and when you want to start the certification process, you would submit your assessment for review, and you would be in what we call evaluation queue. Then we have the evaluation, and an evaluation analyst does a preliminary check of your assessment. They check that you are in the right industry, that you didn't double count positive practices on different parts of the assessment. And it also checks, they also check which entities you put in the assessment, if you are a group with different entities. Then you move on to verification, which is the more thorough part of the review process. And this is a more personalized experience also with an analyst, where you would go back and forth in providing documentation, and you would need to provide documentation or some sort of proof for pretty much everything that you answer on the assessment. And there is also a review call where you sit with the analyst for an hour or two and review everything that you have put in there. If that goes well and you continue to have a verified score above 80 points, then you are almost there. You just need to sign the B Corp agreement and what we call the declaration of interdependence, right? Interdependence between all stakeholders in society, in the economy, excuse me. And B Corp agreement says, what you can do with your B Corp certification, how you can use it, what B Lab is in charge of, and what each is responsible for. There is also a remark there about recertification, which is something that happens every 3 years if you want to keep your B Corp certification, for us to check that you are upholding or ideally improving on your standards. And the last step would be to pay the certification invoice. And for certification, there is an annual fee, and this fee is based on your annual revenues. So the smaller the revenue, the smaller the annual fee. And you can see this quite transparently on the bcorporation.eu website. I think it's very clear, but if not, please also let us know, and we're happy to answer any questions. So the key of the question, why do companies certify? Why are companies doing this? Well, these are some reasons that we have heard from companies and that we have identified. The first reason is usually to position themselves as leaders, and maybe organizations haven't managed to lead in any particular area in the past, or they have a track record of doing so, and they want to lead this movement of using business as a force for good. And there is a window of opportunity for that at the moment in the Baltics, because we still have a relatively small amount of certified B Corps. Another reason is to build relationships. And as Jakob said before, B Corp is a global community, and there are many opportunities that can come out of that. We have in-person online events, and we know that through the B Corp ecosystem, companies build client and vendor relationships. I even heard of companies saying that it saves them time because they start to do business only with B Corps or companies that measure their impact. To attract and engage talent, no better way to attract and engage mission-aligned talent than to verify your values with the B Corp framework. Another reason is to obviously improve your impact and to get better at measuring and tracking things. And this I can say also as a business operator myself, in going through the assessment. Well, first off, in half an hour using the assessment on your own at home, you will get 10 or 15 ideas of things that you can do better at your organization. And you will realize things that you are not tracking, that you are not putting on a spreadsheet, putting a number on, that are actually quite key, not just for your sustainability strategy, but for your success as an organization. A fifth reason would be to differentiate for competitors, and this is a very common one, I believe. And last but not least, to protect the mission. And this is actually how the B Corp movement started, from three startup co-founders who sold their business, and they realized that within a matter of months, all the good practices that they had put into it, all the good policies, how they treat workers, et cetera, in 3 months after the sale, all of that vanished. And so they thought, how can we help lock the mission when an organization is really committed to doing good for the world? And this is a way of doing so, starting a B Corp journey. Most B Corps that certify improve over time. And so we have something called impact business models, which are ways in which the organization creates an extraordinary positive impact for one or more of its stakeholders. So this is one of the things that we measure on the B impact assessment. And more than half of European B Corps that started their certification without an impact business model, they create one by the time that they recertify in 3 years. And on the right side of the screen, you can see just examples of some companies in there as they went through certification for the first time. So the first score above 80 points is in black, and the next score is the one that they got in their latest recertification. And so, yeah, you always need above 80 points to submit the assessment. And there is no upper limit, but I think no company has ever gotten more than 200 points. And I'll wrap it up. I'm out of time. But to finalize, I can say that you can do all of this yourself. And the B Impact Assessment is built in a way that is really intuitive to use. It's very educational, as I said before. And there are some online resources like webinars, our knowledge base, which is like our Wikipedia. And we have also some capacity for support. But if you need additional help, or if you need a sparring partner, as you do in boxing, to keep you in shape and to keep you engaged in the process, you have two options. One is B Corp Way Partners, and these are consultancies that are specialized in B Corp. I think there are none yet in the Baltics. And B Leaders. And I have a much more experience with B Leaders directly. These are consultants that are trained by B Lab to be able to support organizations, and they can support you in different stages of the process, and they can be really key in keeping you committed and keeping you accountable. So we really appreciate having B Leaders in the community, and I'm personally really eager to hear from Sana's presentation in a moment. So that was it. Let's get to work. Continuous improvement over perfection. And happy to answer any questions that may have come up.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. We already got we got a few questions, but we have we're going to probably save most of the questions for the panel session. But one thing that I have the courtesy of asking you is, like, we saw this in a way hockey stick growth already in Europe of B Corps certified with a high jump in 2022. Could you share any indications of what is the interest from the companies in the Baltics? Is there anything you can share? Like, so we know we have one B Corp, but how many are in the pipeline, if that's to be announced, or could you share that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking, Jacobs. Of course, we can't give names because it's confidential, but I think to let companies know about the event today, we emailed around 200 something individuals last week from around 100 companies that are in Latvia, Lithuania, or Estonia using or have used the B Impact Assessment or the SDG Action Manager, which is another tool that we have connected to the SDGs. And at the moment, they are going through the process so that they have submitted their assessment. They may or may not certify, but there is a Latvian company, a Lithuanian company, and an Estonian company.
Super. So the pipeline is getting wider and wider. There are more companies So it's not just an outlier that we see today. Perfect. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Then speaking of outliers, I'd like to give floor to Gatis Zēmanis, who actually, as I said before, spearheaded the certification for the first ever B Corp from Latvia. Gati, why did you do it? And was it worth it? The floor is yours.
Was it worth it? Yes. But first of all, hi to everyone. A moment, I will do the presentation. So, was it worth it? Definitely. Hi to everyone. My name is Gatis Zēmanis, and I'm a co-founder of Kaule Coffee. Basically, we are coffee roasting company dedicated to producing high quality specialty coffee. This is how we started. Our main goal to make our own company was driven by to do things differently, and what we wanted to change coffee industry, actually, which this industry is quite old, with kind of traditional frameworks, which doesn't goes to all kind of like directions. So in 2018, we decided let's make the company, and where we stand at the moment, we have a structure of our business of Kaule is we have two segments. One is B2B segment, which holds about 60% of our turnover. We work with a Kaule brand. We supply our brand coffee to all kinds of B2B customers, which is coffee shops, restaurants, offices, etc. Then we have a sub-brand called Coffee Authors, and of course our main focus in the future outside of production will be private label roasting. We want to develop products with high added value. At the moment we have something around 150 B2B clients in Latvia. The next segment, and actually which came out just because we opened one coffee shop for ourselves, where we want to show how we see the modern modern and accessible specialty coffee shop. We opened it in the first one in 2019. And so at the moment we have 3 coffee shops in Riga and one wholesale bakery. Our big picture is to change the industry, and of course this goal is hard to taste and touch, etc. But we want to be the top 10 specialty coffee brand in Europe, and we had some reality checks as well. We are in 2019 we are second best specialty coffee roaster in Europe by diploma of coffee roast masters and etc. Yeah, at the moment we have a turnover of in 2022 turnovers 2.2 million euros. This year we think there going to be 3.5 million, and what we want to do to become this recognizable brand in Europe, we want to open more coffee shops, of course. At the moment we are working we are in construction process in Düsseldorf to open our first coffee shop. Our target is to make some few coffee shops during next year, and if everything goes well, so we will of course expand our business in this position. If we take a look of our big picture in governance side, so we want to become public company, and we are planning to do that in 2025 or 26, depending on all kind of things. And how we started. Here you can see the two parts. Actually we started our business in my kitchen, actually, and we were a 2-man company. At the moment, we are a team of 52 persons, and we have beautiful people working in our company, and we are really glad to that. At the moment, we can produce 60 tons per month roasted coffee. Actually, we developed the biggest specialty coffee roastery in our region. And actually, if I take a look at the last 4 years, it was quite a run, and I think we did like really good job and settled. But I think we did that because we asked ourselves a question. We knew that in 2018 we knew that we were gonna roast the coffee, but do the business. But why are we gonna do that? How are we gonna do that? Who if you take a look on the company as a person, who this person gonna be, what kind of qualities he will represent, and etc. So what we did before we started to develop our like visual identity, our products, and etc. We build our roadmap, and these are in the middle column. You see our values, which is open-mindedness, honesty, quality approach, braveness, sustainability, and accessibility. And actually, this is a framework for us, or like navigation map, how to make any decisions in our company. It doesn't matter if these decisions are big ones or small ones. All these decisions should go through this values filters. So, and I think this helps us to keep moving forward, and not to forget why actually we do the business here. And of course, it's about business is about money, but we knew that we want to do things differently, and it's not for the shareholders, but actually it's for stakeholder good. And okay, we had these values. We developed our coffee shop, our roastery, but we wanted to go a few steps forward, but we didn't know how to do that, And actually, like 4 years ago, there was in Latvia, I think nobody was talking about ESG and sustainability and all these kind of things. At the moment, we have Baltic Sustainability Forum and all kinds of events in big companies where they're looking for suppliers. They're asking, what are you doing in all these kind of segments, etc. So, and how it happens in life, we met with I have a friend who has a friend, and he has a friend, and we met with Zane, and I'm really glad with that. And Zane actually help us to put some kind of like framework on our values and all these things, what actually we are doing. And we didn't have any tools how to improve all these values and implement in the real life. So we met with Zane, and this year we are glad that we are B Corp certified. As you saw, our values actually all this methodology is already in our DNA. Because of that, how we start the business. For us, it's actually the road was quite. It was long, but it wasn't so hard, and we are happy to be a B Corp certified company. And regarding the benefits of B Corp, of course, we are happy that we are first in Latvia. We have a 91.8 points of B Corp system, and of course the main benefit is ideal driven action. It's if we take a look of team point of our colleagues, so every colleague is happy to get involved in this movement, and of course this helps works as a filter to select suppliers, customers, and all the stakeholders with whom we are working with. of course, belonging to a movement is always a nice thing because it's a kind of society, and it's good to have a chance to be part of that. And of course, as I mentioned before, it's nice tool for a good governance practice, and these tools help us to implement all these things in real life. So this in a few words, and Jakobs, maybe you have some questions.
Super, thank you, Gadi. Absolutely, and I think a lot of people have also like asked me and are interested, how do you see as a company owner who actually decided to pursue the certification? Do you see there's going to be any direct or indirect financial like outcomes as well, in either short or long term, becoming a B Corp? Do you think it can be measurable?
I think it depends of first of all of all kind of laws, which I hope that it took us for something around 1 year to make all these assessments. So all the effort we put in this, we could spend money in sales force, to make that one. But we believe that this is in long term. Actually, this is our sales as well. So I don't think there's going to be like direct like thing that we can see our income increase because of the B Corp, but I think it's because of actually the clients are asking the action from business owners. So, and they are voting with the wallets. And I hope that during like next 4 or 5 years, there are going to be some kind of changes in the regulations of law, that companies as Kalva Coffee will have some kind of, I don't know, tax benefits or something.
So would you say that you're in a way crafting your company to be more future proof?
Yes, definitely. And me as a company founder and co-owner, my main goal is not to earn the most money. I don't want to be the first in the like Excel. I want to be first for the planet. And I think the nice thing is that you have this in B Corp, you have this point system, and the business owners, they are quite competitive, and I think they want to be competitive with like in other companies, and this point system give us some kind of this force that gives beneficial to all the stakeholders.
Thank you. And I think it's worth noting, if any of the attendees didn't notice, Nicholas shared the link where you can see publicly how did Kalva Coffee perform in their first ever assessment and see the breakdown. I think, thank you, Gadi. We're going to keep other questions for later, as it's a perfect moment to switch to Zane. Thank you. And Zane could share, the insights of the process. Zane has helped many companies in terms of corporate sustainability, and we understood that Kalva Coffee is one of them. And Zane, could you share the story of why are you doing this, and how did you find it from the inside of the process?
Of course, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you this morning. Let me just share my screen. Great. Yes, so my name is Zana Valoyeva, and I'm representing Kind Agency. And I would want to start with giving you a bit on my background, and exactly as Jakob said, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And actually, my sustainability journey started, now close to 10 years ago, which is very crazy because that was the time when it was a complete desert in terms of this topic. But I was studying in London, and I was actually studying fashion, which is one of the most problematic industries in the world. But thankfully enough, it took me it took me to actually realizing, yes, all of this and uncovering the topic of sustainability. Of course, it took me a bit of time because it was quite a lonely journey in the beginning, but I made a complete shift of my life, you might say, and understood that it must be something that I dedicate my life to, basically. And through various avenues and disciplines, I started working professionally within sustainability. And the last 3 years, it's also very crazy to think that it's been 3 years now. I've been working with B Corp, and for me it. Oh, sorry. Let me just try again the videos. And for me, it also, I imagine, started similarly as to quite a few of you here today. I was also, first of all, I believe my first encounter of B Corp was in 2018. And a company that I was working at the time, a consultancy company, was interested in obtaining this certification. And what really got my attention after, yes, having been in the sustainability field for quite a bit is exactly what Nico also said, is that B Corp really certifies the whole organization, everything, all the aspects of it. And as I very often say these days, it's a 360 assessment of the company, which really, again, makes these type of companies stand out. It's not only one aspect, it's not only ingredient, or it's not only product, which is still very great achievement, but this really shows a very, very high standard of companies' commitment to responsibility. And yes, and then I went through the B Leader training also, as it was mentioned before, here in Denmark, where I'm also actually located now. Yeah, I guess then my journey started with all of that, and that led me to establish my own consultancy called Kind Agency. And I've been very privileged and have the opportunity to work with a lot of great minds and very ambitious companies, as one you saw today, and yeah, hope to work with many more of them in future, especially in the Baltics. Yes, so now I would like to talk to you a bit about, so how does this process look like, just in a bit more depth, because as Gatis mentioned, it is, and as Nico of course covered, it's quite a hefty process, it's quite a lengthy process. The standards are very rigorous. That's the verb that you usually hear when you talk about B Corp. And what I do with my clients, with the companies that we work, we start with this discovery phase, because we really need to understand where the company is currently. Because I very, very often get the question, okay, so how quickly can we do this? But it's kind of similar as you would ask your trainer, how quickly can I lose this weight? I don't know, both parties, we just need to understand, what are we working with? And that's kind of the very, very important first step. Then we get to actually, as I call, driving the change, and that includes the measuring, the reporting, and actually the certification. And I will walk you through in a bit more detail in just a second. And then also, what I'm always emphasizing to all the companies, as also it was mentioned before, is that it's very much about the beginning of the journey. It's not the end goal. You are just kick-offing. In my experience, it's very, very often that companies are just kick-offing their sustainability journey with the help of the B Corp certification and assessment. So the discovery sessions, as I call them, again, is yes, just to understand, what are we working with? Are we gonna be luckily enough, hopefully enough, achieve the 80 points? If not, then what do? We just need to understand, again, yes, what are we working with? And from my experience, the best successes I've had is when I've had the close involvement and engagement from the leadership teams, because then the B Corp mindset and the values spread so much more smoother and easily across the rest of the team. and it's just completely incomparable. And I know that there's a lot of talks right now, and a lot of companies are struggling a lot when it comes to sustainability culture and how to get your employees engaged. So even more so, I always emphasize that an involvement, and ideally a close involvement from the leadership team, is a must. Then if necessary, we create an internal B Corp team, but that's for companies which are bigger, like maybe with up to 50 employees, because there's a lot of departments. Because as mentioned, within B Corp, you will have to report your financial information. You will have to get your HR people involved, your supply chain, your logistics responsible people involved. So it will be a teamwork. But this phase usually takes 2 to 3 weeks in ideal case. Just to let you know, it's nothing too long and nothing scary as well. And then we get to the heavy lifting. Then we start working in the B impact assessment, or the BIA. And there we actually start going through the 5 focus areas, and we just basically go through each section one by one, and simultaneously we start gathering all the documentation and implementation of any new initiatives or policies. And yes, there is quite a few of them that are required, but again, that's nothing to be scared of. Because also I've heard, and I've also seen it in my experience, that once it's on paper, once it's written down, then there's no miscommunication again internally within the team. Everyone is aligned, everyone is on the same page, and that's what you ultimately would want when looking to create a sustainability-driven culture. Here again, there's multiple points of inspiration. Like there's so much to learn for the company, because B Corp gives, as I always said, good, better, best kind of options of what you can do. So there's a lot of points of inspiration, and it's not maybe even for a year, for the next year or 3 years, but maybe for 5 and 10 years. So it does require long-term approach. So yes, I just wanted to show you a bit how the B impact assessment looks. So it in total, these 5 sections, they can go up to 250 questions, which is quite a lot, and it depends on your company, it depends on your size, on your industry, and things like that. And it also there are these decision trees. There are possibilities. If you say yes to some question, then you go further. If you say no, then you will probably stop that way. But it's a very interesting methodology, and there is some personalization also, which I, again, very much appreciate and like, because we just eliminate maybe questions that are less applicable to company, and we really focus on capturing the impact. So yes, the requirement is to achieve at least 80 points out of the 200 available. I always say that it's a safe submission with 90+ points, because points can go up and down, and you never want to, at least I would never want to any of my clients to be in the situation that we need to go back and So I always encourage that we do our best in submitting with as maximum points as possible. And yes, just to kind of focus a bit on each of the areas which are very extensive, and you can see some of the examples for the questions which you would get, for example, in the governance area, because I know, as Gatis mentioned, I know that the topic is very new, very fresh in Latvia and the Baltic region, and unfortunately, a lot of people associate sustainability only with environment, but I think this is a perfect example, perfect illustration of actually the broad scope of sustainability, and I think, excuse me, this really covers all the important aspects. And yes, like it just asks about your workers, how do you take care of your employees, because that is important. That is also a part of your corporate sustainability and responsibility. And yes, these are very, very important aspects, and I think it's just important to understand that it's a broad scope of an assessment. Just to give you a bit of yes, like, so how does this look like? So we have gone through the drive the change stage. We have submitted, we have hit submit, we have done the heavy lifting, but then there's a bit of a way to go, and then the company is entering the evaluation queue. Then we get to the evaluation and more questions are coming in, more documentation is required to fill in, more in-depth questions will be coming in, like within the impact business model areas. And there's also some space for improvement. And then, yes, then get ready and pop your champagne, and become B Corp certified and join the community. But this can take a little while, and it definitely requires some patience and more documentation to be provided. One thing, yes, that I also want to highlight is again something that I very much appreciate and think is again an indication of a very high standard and approach within B Corp, is the fact that they are evolving their standard every 3 years. So currently we are in version 6 of the methodology of the BIA, but there is a slow transition in 2024, as far as I've heard, happening to the version 7, which will be a bit different, which could be a bit more complex, a bit more challenging, but nothing to be afraid of course, because sustainability as such is a journey. It's a topic that is ever evolving. It's never still. So this is just a perfect reflection of, going ahead of the time, and also just as a global society is changing and evolving. And just to highlight, yes, that B Corps are not only to be the best in the world, but to be the best in the world, but also to be the best for the world. And it's really such an amazing philosophy and values to share once you're part of the movement. And just a couple other things to keep in mind. As I also mentioned, this is the beginning. This is truly the beginning. There is so much that you can get from the assessment, so much inspiration points, so many great connections, so many ideas, so many new business opportunities potentially. And also just something to keep in mind, that there is this requirement to recertify every 3 years. And there is this kind of, yes, unknown, like unwritten rule that you are expected to certify with a higher score. And I just want to cover a couple of the frequently asked questions that I get, and these are something along the line like, how long will it take us? What are the costs? Does my company qualify to certify? And I'm afraid that my company is not sustainable enough. I think that's very, very often, and that's the last point, is something that I also see so often is also because companies usually are very, in my experience, are very shy and usually undervalue themselves. So I'm here to actually shine the light on you, if I can say that in that way, because companies who truly are working within sustainability, they just maybe don't see it enough themselves, and then I offer this outside perspective. But again, like, to answer these above questions, it's very individual, but also how long will it take us? Like it really depends. Like it depends on your fitness, and the costs are also like pretty much the same answer to that. And Nico shared the costs of the certification itself. and it depends on the size and your revenues, which I think is a very, very good approach, like making it very inclusive to any size companies. And yes, just to mention a bit about how did we do it with Kalva Coffee. So we did start a little while ago, but I had the pleasure of working with both Gatis and Raimonds, who are the co-founders of Kalva Coffee. And we started, yes, with this discovery session, and then jumped into the BIA, and I gave them homework, if you will, to go through each of the focus area one by one. And then once they were ready with having filled their answers, we would meet and discuss them, with me also having gone through it. And the sessions, some of the sessions could be quite challenging, quite thought-provoking, but in the best way possible. And alongside, of course, we started working on quite a few of the documentation, gathering some information from electricity usages and water usages and things like that. And we started putting it all together. And I guess with Kalva Coffee, as Gatis mentioned, yes, due to their foundational sustainability mindset integration, we were able to reach the necessary points in a good way, that we were able to reach that with like a smooth kind of process. Then we hit submit, and then we went through the rest of the certification phase, and yes, and now they are a part of the community, which is very, very exciting. And this is just the beginning for them, for sure. And yes, I will share shortly that you can sign up for the newsletter of my company, and just keep up to date with any of the upcoming webinars which we will be creating about B Corp, about spreading the word of B Corp in the Baltics. And I will also share a couple links to further reads if you are interested, which I think you should, of course. B Lab themselves, they just, not that long ago, they shared an annual report for 2022, and it just is a very, very good way to learn a bit more about their vision, mission, but also some of the things of the growth of the movement, which has been exponential. And then just also some insights about how they are contributing to the incoming regulations and all the changes that are happening within the Europe Union, and just something a bit more fun, if I can put it like that. Why companies choose to be B Corp. Yes, thank you very much, and feel free to share any questions.
Thank you so much, Zane. Perfect. I think you touched upon many questions that we would surely like to dive into a bit further in this discussion that we can now have with everyone here. But yeah, again, thank you everyone for sharing your insights from your perspectives, from the macro level, from the organizational perspective, from the company perspective, and the process perspective. And perhaps just to kick it off, I would ask Zane, having worked with different brands already being certified or on the way to become certified as B Corps, I know probably the official answer is that everyone is in a way encouraged to become a B Corp. Practically, how do you see it? What kind of companies, industries, or are there certain maturity levels that you see a company should have that makes more sense to try to become a B Corp?
That's a very good question, and that's also one of the frequently asked questions that I get. I would say in terms of the maturity level, it depends. Like if you're up to making it as an exercise that it might take you a while, then it doesn't matter like how mature you are. I also think and I've had some interesting discussions over the years that I think if startups can be using this methodology, then they would save so much headaches, in my opinion, because especially when it comes to investments. Now, so many companies, so many VCs are asking, like, what do you do in terms of ESG? Like, what do you do in terms of corporate responsibility and things like that? And then you already have a lot to show. So I would say the sooner the better. I wouldn't be telling to anyone that you should be scared or worried that maybe you're not mature enough. I don't think that there's such a thing. For me, the most important thing, and that's what I also like, how I look at when I work with companies, what is important for me as a professional is, are you willing to do the heavy lifting? Are you willing to invest the time and hours? Because if it's just something, to tick the box, then you're probably not going to make it. You have to be here for the long run and really, yes, be able to do the heavy lifting. I would say that that's the most important prerequisite. Yeah.
So basically, anyone, and especially you're emphasizing that startups should consider that as well. Also, like tech startups, when we're talking about raising funds, it's a very interesting perspective. I think that wouldn't be like off top of mind for a lot of people, but that's a good perspective.
Yes,
so raise awareness.
I imagine Nico also has something to add here. But I also had a discussion with Poland. With the representatives in Poland, and they said that over the last year they've seen a big increase of interest of the assessment from the IT companies, which is also not necessarily something that it would be on top of my mind, but there is some traction happening within that.
Super, Nico, feel free to jump in.
Thank you, Jakobs. It was really inspiring listening to you, Sanja and Gatis. I have a question for Gatis, but before that, I just wanted to react to what's been said. Sanja, I agree with you. Venture capital, it's been increasingly useful also for startups to learn to do due diligence and have documentation ready for when investors come in asking for how the company is doing. But Gatis mentioned before regulation, and that's something that I didn't include in the presentation, but it's increasingly also a motivation for companies to get ready for upcoming European regulations that require companies to initially disclose, but more and more it will be to improve on their sustainability strategy. And I think one of them is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD. And so we at B Lab, we're not a reporting framework, but a performance framework, which helps you to improve as you go through the assessment and everything that's been discussed. But I find it much more useful to learn to do reporting on your impact while you improve and set goals and make use of that improvement also at the campaign and communications level, than just reporting to be legally compliant with upcoming regulations. And may I go with a question for Gatis? Okay, so my question, Gatis, is is there something that you learn in speaking to your supply chain? Is there something that you didn't know or that you were surprised by? And the reason why I ask this is because I think companies in your industry or B Corps in your industry, when they want to stand out, they sometimes do it through their supply chains or their behavior in their supply chain. Sometimes is the environment part, sometimes is how they relate to customers. But in particular, for the audience, if they go to Calve Coffee's public B Corp directory profile, the link that I shared earlier, people will be able to see that you have points for this impact business model that is called supply chain poverty alleviation. So in short, my question is there something that you learn in speaking to your supply chain?
Of course, you're learning all the time. If you're looking for the suppliers which hold the same values you have, because our main supplier is a green coffee producer, and this producer lives in a totally different area, and of course we learn a lot from each other, idea. Our main supplier from which we are buying something around 70% of green coffee. They have B Corp certification as well. So I don't know how to answer your question. What kind of answer are you looking for? Of course, we are learning from them, and they're learning from us. And I think that this B Corp kind of mindset it helps helps to improve both sides, and we like communicate quite closely. And this B Lab diploma gives us the trust actually as well, that we know that they're doing they go on the same pain and lift waiting what actually we did. So there's total trust and total learning for both sides.
And perhaps if I can build on this Nicholas' question, have you already leveraged, or do you think you will leverage the community that seemingly the B Corp certification gives you access to? Perhaps, more easy to talk to other companies from your industry across the globe, or perhaps even find new suppliers or partners.
Yeah, of course, as I mentioned in my presentation, this is I think one of the main benefits what you have when you have this B Corp certification, because it doesn't matter, you go to Japan, Brazil, London, Sweden, if you go to it doesn't matter what kind of company, and say, hi, I'm B Corp as well, and there's totally different level of trust. So and if this gonna grow, so I think it's gonna be a beautiful future.
Migo, you want to add on that?
Yeah, thanks. Just very briefly, because Calva Coffee is certified in June, and every few months we have onboarding calls where we bring together and introduce new B Corps across Europe. And so the one that Gatis will participate in is on September 7th, I think. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, because it's a very diverse group of companies. And also this is being recorded. Gatis also, part of our job is to help you find opportunities in the B Corp community. So we'll probably bother you time and time again.
No worries.
But also keep us accountable for that. We are there for you, even though, with some couple thousands kilometers of distance from our Amsterdam office. But yeah, and also hope to see you in Amsterdam at some point.
We will, definitely.
If I can ask Gatis and Zane on the process of becoming a B Corp on this impact assessment. So one thing I just wanted to get straight. So everyone can access, correct, this impact assessment for free already today. That's one thing. And so only until the point you submit for verification, all the questions are available, and basically the framework is available to everyone on the planet. Perhaps then I could ask Zane and Gatis, when you were going through this questionnaire, this framework, when you were providing all the answers, was there something that you immediately understood? Did it provoke to change any kind of operations you were doing at a company already even before, start becoming certified?
I think, this process is kind of when you come on the stage, you take all your clothes off, and you're standing as a company like naked there. And I think for us it was quite easy. First of all, I think it's really nice thing to do to all kind of companies, because it is a reality check where you're standing at the moment. And for us it was quite easy going, because we didn't have some things which we want to just not to show to everybody and etc. But still, if some companies have these things and they are willing to change that's really fine.
What I could actually add to that, and Gati, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly, when we were in the process, you were still thinking of the format of the collaboration with Sun Coffee, who are your green coffee suppliers, and you were thinking going for them, but not 100% sure. And then I remember we had one meeting and then we had another one, and you said like, okay, we made a decision, we're going with them. And I, at least to my understanding, one of the pushes could and was B Corp, that they are also within the B Corp, and you are going towards B Corp, and meaning that the values are aligned. I remember it was around the end of the year that we were in the process. So that, from my perspective, that's quite a big contribution and big change that was within the process.
Great insight. And I think also what I noted from your discussions is, one was interesting also in the beginning of this Q&A session, was insight on how investors would look at it, how it would be beneficial for raising funds. And another aspect, I think one of you mentioned very shortly, was the employer branding. Gati, did you ever had it on mind? And then Nico, do you see that companies also do it to become visible, to as an employer? And perhaps it helps in this tight European, fight for talent market? That's an open question. Yeah, feel free.
Okay, for us, I think it's not because the B Corp, but there's one thing you can have the sustainability strategy like written on the paper, but I think the most important thing is to implement this in real life, and actually your customer, your potential employee should feel it in all the actions which company is doing. So and I think, of course, for finding new talents, I think B Corp will help us as well. For example, we are talking with one guy. Actually, he's working in Copenhagen in the coffee industry. He's one of the top in the world professionals in coffee, and we will work together in Latvia. And so this B Corp, of course, for him as well. He's working in the company who have B Corp at the moment in Denmark. And of course, when we are saying, yeah, we are B Corp as well, and this is what we are doing, and it gives the trust for the potential employees as well.
Nikos, any experiences with other companies you're working with? Like, any feedback on how does it help to attract talent to the company?
I can say that in terms of visibility, I see that many B Corps use the community and the framework as an extension of their comms department, and also as an extension, or if they don't have one, of an innovation department. Because again, you go through the assessment, you have so many ideas of things that you can do better, but especially in comms and just joining the campaigns that B Corps run worldwide throughout the year is already, if you really leverage on it, is probably half of what your communications department needs as content and the narrative that you want to project to the outside world.
Thank you. And actually, we do also have a question about also a very practical perspective of, for example, exporting from Latvia to the Netherlands. So here as well, I've seen B Corp logos here and there. Even if you go to local online supermarket, the leading one, there's a section of vegan products, vegetarian products, and B Corp products. So the attraction is seemingly high here at B2C segment. But could you expand on that, as the question is, how crucial is B Corp certification for a company that is engaged in exporting to the Netherlands? How many B Corps are here, and how recognized are there here in the Netherlands, Benelux?
Yeah, well, the Benelux is one of the regions where the growth has been exponential, and there is a lot of attention and more community events as well than in other places. I think there are now more than 250 B Corps in the Benelux region. And yeah, we see them doing business abroad quite often, and as we said before, is just a time saver and an easy link when you find partners outside of the country that are also in the B Corp community.
Just like Gaddis said before. So, oh yeah, you're already a B Corp, then it's like easier to establish the contact. Okay, so 150 companies and growing from one of the fastest region in Europe. Thank you. That's quite bold, especially in, yeah, as far as I know, is it mostly B2C? Are those mostly consumer products or?
Everything, B2C, B2B, and services. We're trying to get more and more closer to the agriculture sector, which so far has been a bit more afar, but there is everything, and we certify companies in every sector.
Thank you. And then I would invite any last online participants who have hanged out with us for more than 80 minutes to leave any last questions if there are any. But before there are any final remarks from our panelists, basically, how would you, and what do you think like would be the key reason to actually consider this, to start the journey, or any last remarks that you would just leave to our listeners, both live and in the recording afterwards?
I can go first. You can't, if you want to climb a mountain, you have to look at the next 100 steps. And I read this book recently, Atomic Habits, about how to create good habits, or and in the title, Atomic is about the smallest steps that you can take to create that new habit. That's what you should focus on. The small, like don't focus, I would say, on becoming a B Corp. Focus on becoming a bit closer to a B Corp in the next weeks, months. And I would encourage every business operator to take the smallest possible step. And that might be spending 15 minutes on the B Impact assessment, creating an account, sending a message to Zane, connecting with Gatti to follow him, see what's the small. I would want to leave the audience with this question: what's the smallest thing that you can do to act on what we have talked about today?
Thank you.
And yes, I would like to just add to that and put the emphasis on what I mentioned already before, that sustainability is truly a journey. And this is one of the steps to forward. But I would want to think that all of us would agree that this topic is not going anywhere, because there are so many indications of the necessity for things to change, and especially for how business have been operating. And I always love saying the B Corp's motto or slogan, use business as a force for good, because I think it's a misconception that you can only make profit and be, destroying the environment, not be responsible towards your employees and just the communities and just the surrounding environment. I think it's really, we have enough of examples at this point that proves otherwise. And of course, it's a long-term game, long-term perspective, but I think it's more than doable. And the fact that it's very, very necessary at this stage of our world.
Thanks, Anna. Gatti, as a first B Corp from Latvia, your final remarks, encouragement for other companies?
Yes, I agree with Nicholas and Zan that actually I thought it's like a lot of people and business owners think that actually it's quite expensive, etc. But actually it's not. And you can do sustainable and responsible business in a long term and get like high profits of that. And I think what I recommend to business owners to put that like sustainability and responsibility not as a sum of strategies of company, but put this responsibility as a all business strategy. And I think you have to change the mindsets to do like that.
Super. Thank you, Gatti. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, congrats, Kalvet. That's true. A big respect for the first B Corp from Latvia. And as we heard from Nicholas, absolutely many more to come. Before we wrap up this great webinar, I'd like to just invite people who are with us or watching the recording to connect with our speakers of today. And as recording is wrapping up, also for those who are still in person live, feel free to fill the poll just so we understand, like, did the webinar meet your expectations? And yeah, a true thank you to Nicholas, to Gattis, and to Zane for taking your time this morning from different places of Europe, as we heard. And we truly hope that we're going to have this B Corp community growing in our region, especially due to the many great benefits that we heard about today, that even a smallest company might find a great value in it. Thank you, everyone. With this, we are finalizing the webinar, and let's all keep in touch.
Thank you, Oli. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you very much to you all. And thank you very much to Jakobs and the rest of the Investment and Development Agency team for supporting and organizing this.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.